What's up, everybody? Happy Friday night to you. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tyler. You're watching Hooksets Are Free. Hope you guys are having a great week. Great Friday night. It is currently Friday night, about 9:15 my time, Mountain Standard Time, and I'm just drinking a little IPA. This specifically is the Cano Bliss IPA series from Oscar Blues here in Colorado. And it's officially referred to as a hazy IPA, 7.2%. So a little bit strong, but I did bring a second beer down here just in case we hang out for a little bit longer. And this is also from Oscar Blues. It's called the Oney IPA or the 1Y. I'm not quite sure, but this guy is a 100 calorie IPA, also a hazy IPA, just 4%. So probably should have started with that guy instead of the more aggressive 7%er, but I didn't quite think that out before I hopped on here. So whatever, not a big deal. What's up, Abe? How you doing tonight, man? Simon, hope you guys are doing well. I've got a little package to unbox and thought I would hop on and do that with you guys. So we will just wait a couple minutes, see if anybody else wants to hop on before I tear it open and explain to you guys what I picked up this month from Discount Tackle. You guys are probably already familiar, but just for anybody who's watching on the replay, or if you guys don't already know, discounttackle.com is an online retailer for all things fishing, not just bass fishing, but trout fishing, panfish, saltwater, and they sell a lot of big name products at a discount. So, of course, there are going to be certain brands that have restricted prices, minimum advertised prices, which cannot be discounted. So, Megabass, Jackal, a handful of other companies, River to Sea, there's a bunch out there that do not let retailers discount their prices ordinarily. However, occasionally you might find something discounted, and there's actually one or two things in this package that I found discounted, which normally cannot be, and decide to pull the trigger on them. I will explain why I picked these up and when I plan to use them and to target what kind of fish. But Discount Tackle is an awesome place to shop online if you like high quality gear and saving a little bit of money on your gear. So if ever you're going to shop there, please use my link. I am a brand ambassador and affiliate for Discount Tackle. I do make a small percentage on the sales that I help generate. So, it doesn't cost you a thing. Just helps Discount Tackle know that I sent you their way, and I get a little bit of a kickback. So, quite honestly, that's probably the best way that you can support the channel. And just keep that in mind moving forward. I will try my best to include that affiliate link from now on in all of my video descriptions. But while we're at it, I will go ahead and throw that in the live chat right now just so that you guys have it and can go ahead and save that, bookmark it, whatever. I just dropped it in the chat. So what's up, Matt? How you doing? Simon, I think I got your email. I'm not totally sure. I need to double check that, but I think you sent me an email saying that you're interested in a couple frogs. Is that right? If so, I might have a couple to send your way. So I apologize for not getting back to you just yet, and we'll make a point to do that because I like to give back and help out a fellow fisherman and support you guys as well. So thank you for the reminder. Matt just sent me a picture on Instagram earlier today showing that he got a nasty hook in his finger, in his thumb, a swim bait hook, and it was pretty close to the nail and in deep. So Uh, Matt said something crazy like he continued to fish with the hook in his hand and caught some fish. Are you being for real? Or did you get the hook out first and then keep fishing? Because either way, you're a little bit crazy, man. Ron Holly in the house. What's up, dude? How you doing tonight? Hey, Matt, that's good to know. And congrats on catching 6 fish this week on the Depth Sweet Killer and one on the Tiny Clash. It sounds like a productive week, man. I probably only caught 6 or 7 fish this entire week. Maybe a little bit more than that. But I went night fishing twice, and I went out for a couple hours, a handful of times, and I got skunked a few times. Usually, I only get skunked like once a week, but this week was pretty hot for us here in Colorado, and I was just trying out different things and fished at a couple places that I hadn't been to in the better part of a month, and just couldn't quite figure them out. The body of water had changed quite a bit. The weeds had grown up, and the water level had fallen, and the fish had moved. So I wasn't able to catch them like I wanted to. And to be honest, I do get a little bit bored of just going out and throwing a whopper plopper and a jackhammer chatterbait. Although those are by far my two biggest confidence baits in terms of if I just needed to catch a fish, that's probably what I would tie on most of the time. But I haven't been able to get out at sunrise or sunset anytime recently. So I am fishing kind of middle of the day most of the time, if not middle of the night. And yeah, it's just been a little bit tough. Yeah, so when I went night fishing, um, I didn't get skunked either time, but I never had a super productive night like I typically do. I'll usually catch, 10 to 20 fish in a pretty short hour and a half ish session. Sometimes as short as an hour, sometimes as long as 2 hours. But um, yeah, caught a couple ratfish, um, caught a couple popper fish, struck out on a black and blue chatterbait, and I lost one of my dual hardcore poppers. I was throwing that black popper and caught a fish on it, and then was moving my way down the bank and accidentally got too close to the bank, cast my popper straight into a bush. So, I walked over, was trying to free it, and the 30-pound braid that I had tied on to that bait caster ended up just snapping, and it was pitch black. We've got like the new moon right now, so there's almost no light out in the middle of the night, and my lure just went flying straight up in the air. I could hear it land behind me, some 20 or 30 feet away, um, and I did risk turning on the flashlight on my phone to go look for it. Even though I had snuck into this pond, it's on a golf course, and was not trying to disturb any neighbors, but I couldn't find the popper. So lost that guy after just catching one fish on it that evening. So that was unfortunate. But Matt says, nah, I caught a 3 pounder and then got hooked badly from that fish. I was pissed. Then I had to go to the hospital because it was under the nail. Came out pretty easily. Had to cut the skin. Dang, dude, that is brutal. Had to go to the hospital to have it removed. Yikes. Well, yeah, it did look like it was in at an angle where you couldn't bring the bar back out. It was like almost under the thumbnail. Um, so that sucks, man, that you had to take a trip to the hospital to get it removed. I'm sorry to hear that, but glad that you caught the fish. Just sad that you got hooked in that way, man. That's too bad. All right, guys. So we got 6 people in here right now. 3 thumbs up. Do me a quick solid. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And I'm going to open this package from discounttackle.com. One more time, I did leave the link to Discount Tackle in the chat if you want to check them out. Also, if you just want to copy and paste that link, that is my affiliate link. and it does help me out anytime you buy from Discount Tackle and use that link. The cookies will stay good for, I don't know, maybe as long as 30 days, but I'm not quite sure it's even that long. So if ever you're going to shop there, just look up that link. You can always go to my Instagram page and click the link that's in my bio. I always have something from Discount Tackle linked there, and I did update it today after I posted a picture of the Megabass Mag Draft Freestyle that I had rigged on. I don't have one here, but a 5/0 Trocar swim blade. So a weedless underspin. What's up, Peyton? What's up, Justin? How are you guys doing tonight, man? Good to see you gentlemen in here. Tight lines to you as well, Simon. Justin says, Tyler. I've got a friend that always does that. He goes, Tyler Long. Pretty hilarious. All right, so let's start out with a really interesting lure. After I go through the formalities, little thank you for your order. They usually include a sticker as well, which I'm not going to really dig around for. I'll show it to you when I get to it. Here's a little preview of what I picked up this month. So as usual, I spent right about 80 bucks. You can get free shipping if you spend, I want to say it's $59 or $60 from Discount Tackle. But you know, if you're buying high-end lures, it adds up quick. It's pretty easy to get there. So first on the list was a buzzbait that I had heard about in a recent video from the Hookup Tackle, Matt's favorite place to shop online. They're an awesome retailer out of the Phoenix area, I believe. They're in Arizona. And, you know, Ben had made a video on some of his top favorite buzzbaits, and one of them was this Jackal Firecracker. So I did just go a little bit plain Jane and pick up one in the black and one in the white, simply because that's typically all I throw when it comes to buzzbaits. And as you guys know, I don't throw buzzbaits all that frequently in the first place, but when I do, I don't mix it up color-wise too much. I will sometimes throw a purple if night fishing, but I typically find that black works just as well, if not better. So, couple things to note about this are that it's got a pretty small profile, first and foremost. So, let me just show you, like, alongside the Megabass Jamaica Boa, you can see here they're lined up at the top. And so this Jamaica Boa is a half-ounce buzzbait, quite a bit bigger profile than the Firecracker by Jackal. The Firecracker has a pretty compact skirt, which I like. So I'm really not going to trim that at all. And I don't usually throw trailers on the back of a buzzbait, though this does have a little bit of a bait keeper. And one feature that is in the Jamaica Boa, but also here in the Firecracker, is that there's a lot of weight here in the head. And I recently heard somebody talking about this bait. Maybe it was even Alex Rudd, that he bought some of these, took the skirt off immediately, and then used this bait keeper to thread a soft plastic, like a buzz toad sort of thing, and thread it right up over there to keep it on there. So mostly this is meant for weight, and and for even distribution, for better castability. This thing weighs 3/8 of an ounce. It does have a relatively small or medium sized hook. I want to say that's probably about a 3/0, if I had to guess. But the main thing that makes this bait different than other buzz baits, it has an okay squeak straight out of the package, but will probably need to be, uh, worn in a little bit, tuned, if you will. Um, but if you see here, it has a prop on the shank. Um, so when this thing is twirling in the water, the blade from the buzz bait will actually make contact with that. So so this is going to be a bit louder of a buzz bait in nature. Um, Put off a little bit of a different sound and vibration in the water. And I do like the way that the arm is shaped. It's made from a relatively heavy wire, heavy gauge wire rather, and seems to be a really well-made bait. So, given the recommendation from the hookup tackle and the fact that I didn't already have any of those in my collection, um, I decided to pick a couple up. So, got that one in black and then this one in white. I'm not even going to pull this out of the package right this moment, but as you can tell, 3/8 of an ounce, 10.5 grams, and the only real difference on this one is that it's got a silver blade as opposed to that black, and it's got like a dot painted on the head to resemble an eye of a bait fish. So, um, I like the fact that I've got kind of an all blacked out and an all white. So, I will treat the white as more of a daytime and the black as a nighttime or low light conditions or cloudy conditions. So, picked up both of those guys. I don't believe they were discounted. They retail at $10 a pop. Let's see what I paid for them. Holy smokes! No, I paid $7.99. So check those out, guys. If you are interested, $8 for a JDM buzzbait like that is not too bad. What did I miss? Peyton said, hooked into a massive striper, um, a really big storm swim bait today, but it spoiled me completely and spooled me completely and ripped the knot off the spool. Going back tomorrow for some revenge. Damn, dude, that is intense. If a striper spooled you totally, that's crazy, man. You probably got to crank that drag down and step up your rod to something a little bit heavier and horse the fish. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but that's pretty badass, and I hope you manage to get some revenge and catch another giant striper, man. Good luck to you. Ron says, dude, you make me feel bad. Just placed a discount tackle order, forgot the link. That's all right, man. Not a big deal. I'm not going to make you feel bad about it. And I'm sorry if I did make you feel bad. That was not my intent. I'm just trying to give you guys a friendly reminder that if you do end up shopping at Discount Tackle, hook a brother up. I talk about them frequently. They're really the only place that I have an affiliation with and any loyalty to. Though, of course, I do still shop at Tackle Warehouse, at the Hookup Tackle. Like you guys saw, I've made some purchases from kind of one-off shops as well. Um, so, I'm not exclusive in shopping at Discount Tackle, but I do go out of my way to shop there when I can, just because the deals tend to be better, and that's one great way to save some money. You're not going to save money on every bait that you buy, but they're a small business out of Oregon, really good guys running the show there, um, at least on the level that I operate with. Um, I'm not dealing with the owner of the company, but rather the guys who run the shop, the marketing guy and the social media guy, and the guys who day to day are running the business. So Matt said I had an order this week. Um, got a couple Rio Rico poppers and Havana walking bait and rainbow trout and that new crank from Evergreen, the Bel Canto. Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, I saw that the hookup uh, got those Labina lures in, specifically the Havana. Um, I haven't tried the smaller Rico. I've only got the Rio Ricos, but they're pretty sweet, man. You know, hard not to have confidence in a Rio Rico, right? And I don't know where they are at the moment. My popper box is evading me, and we can talk about poppers here in a little bit, just because I've got one in the package anyway. So Justin says, which shower blows is the sought after one? Dude, they're all sought after, but the 125 size is the most common. It's the standard size walking bait. It's going to have that traditional sound, more of a knocking sound. This is like their 5-inch walking bait. So same size as like a super spook. Um, and arguably the most popular. However, the 105 is like a super spook junior size. So 105 in millimeters just translates to a little over 4 inches long. And this thing is still pretty damn castable. It's a little over a half ounce. And as you can hear, it's got a little bit uh, higher pitch of a sound. But the most sought after, if that was your question, is the new 77.7. I brought the other one out with me the other day and didn't end up tying it on. Um, but this bait is not in stock at most places yet, just because it was just released a couple of weeks ago at ICAST, um, and is not available at most retailers yet. So that's the one that in my stream last week I mentioned that I went out of my way to go hunt for online and get my hands on a couple before they're really in stock everywhere else. But if you wait a month or two, you should be able to get them on Discount Tackle and save some money in the process. So I always recommend that if you're going to buy anything evergreen, you should check Discount Tackle first, because all of their products are discounted on Discount Tackle. They're just not always in stock. And I'll be honest in saying that Discount Tackle is not always on top of their game in terms of restocking products. They're a fast growing company, and I think are trying to distribute their resources pretty well, and are trying their best to bring in new companies and as much product as they can. And so they're often more focused on bringing in new stuff than they are about restocking the stuff that sells out quickly, or our top sellers, best sellers, if you will. So um, always check that out. And because I work directly with them and have a great relationship, I would ask you kindly and recommend to you that if there's something that Discount Tackle is sold out of, or that they don't carry, but that you kind of wish they did, that you let me know, and I will just pass along the message. I keep in pretty regular contact with them, and they're always open to hearing what suggestions I have, what's working, what's not, what they ought to restock on, things like that. Of course, I'm not always going to get my way, but um, that said, I do have a little bit of pull there, and would recommend that if you have any requests complaints, concerns, that you're welcome to run them through me. Okay. Got a random top water box I got off of Facebook for 30 bucks. Uh, was well over $100 worth of stuff. Damn, Justin, that's pretty cool. Listen to Ron. Spool me once, shame on me. Spool me twice, I quit. Yeah, honestly, Justin should keep that in mind tomorrow. Says, I've been geeking all night. 5 brand new River to Sea frogs and a Jackal Gubacho. Sweet, man. I actually don't have any River to Sea frogs. Um, you know, if if you've got 5 of them, we could make a little trade if you want, depending on what it is that you're interested in. If I've got it, um, I'd be willing. We could talk about it. Looks like Justin No Diggity's in here. We got a couple of Justins. What's up? Riley Belden. What's up, my people? How's everyone been? Tyler, open up the fam. Oh, hoping the fam and the baby are doing well. How's your back been? Thank you for asking. My back has actually been hurting the last couple of days, and I can't explain why, but it's better today than it was yesterday. My wife was so kind as to give me a massage last night before bed, and it actually helped quite a bit. So I'm doing all right. Family's doing well. My 5-year-old just started kindergarten this week. Yesterday was her first full day of kindergarten. So pretty exciting stuff. Our 3-year-old starts preschool next week. My wife and my daughter met her teacher yesterday, and she starts on Monday. So pretty cool deal. And yeah, my son now has 2 teeth popping up right next to each other on the bottom. So he's still teething and doing his thing, a little bit frustrated by it. He is. I'm not. I feel for him, unfortunately. Matthew said the sound on those Ricos are so nice, man. Way different than a lot of other poppers. Um, yeah, you're right about that. They're real loud. They've got those 3 separate balls in them that make a lot of noise, and yeah, it's a great popper for sure. What's interesting is if you look at them side by side with the Yellow Magic, uh, it's like the exact same blank, just slightly different ball bearings inside. So, yeah, Riley, if you're listening, Ron, Bassless Chap is Ron, not Justin. You called him Justin twice on the last stream, and while I thought it was hilarious, don't forget that Bassless Chap is Ron Holly. Ron Holly, Ron Holly. You guys are OGs, and I appreciate you very much. Let's move on to what's next in the package. Because there's not a lot in here, to be honest with you. So I just showed you those 2 firecracker buzz baits. Now I'm going to show you a topwater walking bait. And this is just a little bit of a trick or a secret, is to throw clear walking baits. So not a lot of people do it. I showed you guys last week that I have the Evergreen Shower Blows in the 105 size in a clear color. But this guy here is the Strike King KBD Sexy Dog Junior in their clear color. They call it the Nude series. So you can throw it clear, or you can buy these, which they're full price, which is kind of annoying. And you could paint them yourself. But I think more people than not probably fish these straight out of the pack. And if you can see, if this bad boy will focus for you, you can see the clear balls up front jumping around in this front head section, and you can see the 2 steel balls in the rear. So the Sexy Dog Junior is that classic 4-inch size, roughly a half-ounce bait. has a nice sound to it, a good walk, very classic walking bait, um, high quality for the price tag. I want to say they're like $7, something like that. Um, yeah, I did pay $8, so maybe they retail for $10. I don't know, but I paid $8 for this, and I only have one or two colors of this bait. I have a lot more of the Super Spook Juniors than I do of the Sexy Dog Juniors, but this guy puts out quite a bit different of a sound than that Super Spook Junior, which is a knocker, right? So if you listen to this guy, that's just a straight knocker and a classic pencil shape. Whereas the Sexy Dog Junior has a little bit more tapered design. It's going to be a little bit more tail weighted. So it's going to walk just a little bit smoother, faster, and you get that dual sound in there with a little bit higher pitch of a rattle sound. So um, I do quite like that, and wanted to add that clear color into my box. Can be very sneaky when you've got super pressured fish. Here's that Shower Blows 105 in the clear. If you've got clear water and or pressured fish, um, throwing a clear walking bait when the fish are used to baits coming over their head all day long, or they can see extremely well and have time to inspect your bait. Something like a clear topwater bait can be crucial to making them um, react without getting a good look at what you're throwing. So I would typically prefer to throw something that's going to move a little bit faster, which is why I picked up that Sexy Dog Junior. Um, and will probably throw it just a little bit more frequently than that Shower Blows in the 105, just because the Shower Blows is one that I tend to work more slowly and in and around more uh, isolated pieces of cover, whereas a lot of other walking baits that have more of a traditional shape to them and are going to be better at covering water, I will throw in open water and move more quickly. So that Sexy Dog Junior fits the bill for that specifically. And yeah, I'm happy to have it. So kind of a random purchase this month, but decided to get that. Now, we were talking about top water not long ago, and I don't know. I think Matt mentioned he said the Pop Max or I don't remember which bait you were talking about, but if you guys remember, you're right, Riley. Sometimes it does take time to get used to, and we've got a bunch of Justins in here anyway. So when in doubt, go ahead and call anyone and everyone Justin. I'm joking, but yeah, Ron and I both found that a little bit amusing that you called him Justin a couple times last week. So no big deal at all. Matt says, not sure if you saw the other message on Insta, but I got another K9 coming in. Hard to get JDM color in an older pink color that's pretty hard to find. Looks like it'll smash. Damn, dude, you are crazy. K9 addict. But congrats on the new purchase. Hope that it does smash for you. So I showed you guys this bait a couple weeks ago when I picked it up from Samurai when I got that the depth slide swimmer. I picked up a couple poppers. I've had this tied on for the last week and a half or so, and caught probably a good 20 or 25 fish on it already. So the paint is starting to fade a little bit, and I've got some teeth marks on it for sure. But really like this color, and more specifically, really like this bait. I've been extremely impressed by it and find that in a lot of the ponds that I fish, smaller lakes, smaller bodies of water where I'm doing a lot of bank angling, um, that the smaller Pop X will actually do me better than the Pop Max. And I was surprised at just how easy it has been to throw it on a spinning rod. Now, that said, I told you guys last week I've been throwing it on braid to a leader on a spinning rod, which, um, I do throw braid to a leader on a spinning rod like 90% of the time. Otherwise, I'm throwing straight fluoro. But otherwise, I would throw braid to a mono leader, and I've been throwing it on braid to a fluoro leader, which has gone surprisingly well. But the only complaint that I really have is that in working a bait slowly like that, where you're popping the slack and then reeling up the slack, I've gotten a few more knots in my spool, and I've had to deal with some backlashes, bird's nest, wind knots, things like that. Where if I'm fishing a straight retrieve bait or a drop shot or a worm presentation where I've got tension on my line and I'm reeling the braid on, I really don't have that issue. But when fishing a popper where I'm popping the slack and then reeling up really just slack line, I've had a few issues with that. So we'll see. I might end up experimenting trying to throw this on a bait catcher. Like I mentioned, I do have a Daiwa Tatula SV and a Daiwa Tatula rod, which is it's more of a top water slash shallow cranking setup, and I've used it almost exclusively as a shallow cranking setup. It's a 7 foot medium power moderate action, or Daiwa calls it regular action. um, and it could work quite well for top waters, though it's a little bit long for my liking at 7 feet. Um, but I've had it spooled with 12-pound fluorocarbon almost for a year now. I haven't had to respool actually, so it might be time to respool as it is, uh, and I might just go with braid to a leader and start trying to throw this guy on it, which is a 1/4 ounce and should be able to be thrown on that setup no problem. So, because I've been so impressed with the Pop Max so far, or the Pop X, I should say, um, I decided to pick it up in one of my all-time favorite colors from Megabass, and that is matte shad. As you can see, this is like a color changing scheme here that is a brown back and like a pearlescent belly that kind of fades to brown on the side. And this thing changes in the light, gives off a little bit of yellow, a little bit of purple, um, and I love it. It's just a little bit translucent, not that you'd be able to see in this light, but matte shad is definitely one of my favorites, and I couldn't resist picking it up when I saw it in stock on Discount Tackle. It was full price, I think the 18 bucks. So I didn't save any money on that guy, but in my opinion, the bait is well worth it. This one bait has already paid for itself. And as I explained to you guys, you can get these on Samurai, which is a JDM importer, for like 10 bucks a pop, brand new. Um, Now, I did explain that shipping costs $22 from that place. So you have to spend quite a bit to really get your money's worth. But if you spend like 100 bucks, you're going to get your money's worth for sure. So, all right. A couple more things in here. And I did just run into the sticker, which is a new color scheme this month. That's pretty cool. A little bit of a green background. For a while, they've been the straight gray background. So I kind of like that green. Now, we're going to talk finesse jerkbaits for the rest of this unboxing. And let me catch up on these comments real quick. There's not a lot, but Matt says, try copolymer. That's what I use. Seem to notice way better hookups when using the Pop X. And you can get stiffer copolymer if you want to. You mean as leader or as mainline? Because I have found that I don't love the memory on copolymer as mainline. And so, no, I don't throw copolymer as much as I used to. I used to throw P-Line CXX primarily, but what brand copolymer do you recommend? Especially if it's just a liter, which looks like you just said it is. Do you have a preferred brand? And Ron, no, it's not Wild Gill. This, I think, is a JDM color that, if I'm not mistaken, it had a weird name, dude, like Iltamamushi OB. Don't ask me what that means in Japanese. Tamamushi. OB stands for orange belly, and IL, I'm not quite sure what code that is from Megabass, or if it is one. Usually they have GP or GG or a bunch of other codes for their colors, but IL, I don't know if that is a code or if it's just a part of the word or phrase that is Iltamamushi. So I don't know. Matt says, no, I never use it as mainline because I agree that memory is more, but I use P-Line Fluoroclear. Okay. I didn't know that Fluoroclear was really copolymer. I thought it was a fluorocarbon coated copolymer line. I don't quite even know what that means, but next up, guys, is the dual hardcore Minnow flat in the 70 size. As you can see, this guy is new. I've talked about the Minnow flat a few times, and it is a great bait. Nice little jerk bait that is kind of underrated, if we're being honest. So I talk about dual hardcore from time to time here, simply because it's under the same umbrella as Yozuri, and is a JDM company that makes high quality baits that are really well designed, well thought out, solid components, really fish great straight out of the package, but do not cost an arm and a leg like you typically find in most JDM lures. So this is the Minnow flat in the 110 size. Pretty sweet color pattern there, huh? As you can see, it says hardcore Minnow flat. Come on, baby. Hardcore Minnow flat 110 SP. So this is a suspending jerkbait. This guy runs in the ballpark of 3 to 5 feet, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So pretty typical depth. Not a deep diving jerkbait by any means, but not a super shallow bait. But what makes it unique are a couple things. One, it has those really flat sides that remind me a lot of like a Jackal re-range. Okay, so let me pull one of those guys out and just show you kind of side by side what these guys look like in comparison. And the re-range is actually one that dives shallow. Okay, so it's more in that 3 foot range, typically speaking. But if you can see, they have a very similar design or profile in having those flat sides and not a rounded shape. So the re-range is round just a little bit more. Its flat side is just a hair shorter. Um, but both are great baits. And what you get out of a jerk bait with flat sides is more flash. Okay, so you'll notice that a lot of the color schemes out of this Minnow flat series of jerk baits are very shiny, flashy colors. Um, so as you jerk this thing, it's going to have a little bit more roll and just flash. Um, so really cool idea and concept there. Um, you'll notice that it's got a really thin, narrow bill on it. Thin is not necessarily the word. Narrow is the better word for it. The other thing that makes this bait unique is that it's got that magnetic weight transfer system that that will go to the back when you cast this bait. So you'll get extra casting distance out of the thing. Um, so you can see these two balls are sitting up here in the middle of the bait, and then I have to give it a lot of force to simulate a cast. And even one of these balls doesn't want to move right now. I don't know if it's stuck or what, but you'll see that that ball moves to the back, and then as you begin to work the bait, it rolls forward and sticks to the front to that other ball. So it might just be that one of the balls moves back and then rolls to the other one and they stick together. But I thought they both moved back. I'm not 100% sure on that. So um, this guy here is the mid-sized dual hardcore minnow flat in the 95 size. So really like this guy because essentially it's a uh, an equivalent of like a Vision 110 Junior, where you get a small profile bait, but still with 3 hooks on it. So it's going to have smaller hooks. These are like a size 8 treble hook on them. But I love this size. You know, the Pointer 100 and a bunch of other jerk baits in that class are awesome baits, but all come with 2 hooks on them. So it's very rare to find a downsized jerk bait with 3 hooks on it. Now they do make a larger size in the 130, but I really don't throw a lot of magnum sized jerk baits. I do throw the Megabass Kanata some, but other than that, really a 110 size, and then more like a 100 and even down to a 90 is like what I will throw when fishing jerk baits for bass. But what's cool about this bait is that it's a 70 size. Um, and so really like the fact that this is going to be more of a multi-species um, bait right here. Yeah, it's really copolymer core with a fluoro coating to get the stealth that you get from fluoro, making it less visible, so not as visible as mono, um, but still has that similar stretch, but not as much. Yep, totally understand. Sorry, Justin, that your water's not clear enough to throw jerk baits. Maybe you need to look for other bodies of water, dude. All of your waterways are less than 6 inches of viz. That's insane. Wow. I'm sure that you can find some clear water somewhere, can't you, man? That's crazy. All right, so let me open one of these two up for you and show you what it looks like. The specs on it, so obviously it is 70 millimeters long, so that is just less than 3 inches in length, 2 and 3/4 to be specific. And this thing weighs 5.5 grams. So that is 3/16 of an ounce. I'm so sorry that my focus is all jacked up tonight. Um, but 3/16, okay? So still pretty reasonable um, for its size. This is like a 2.8-inch little jerk bait. As you can see up against my hand, this is a small little bait. Um, in fact, I'm curious to kind of compare it side by side with a couple other baits. Um, so here is the Lucky Craft Pointer 78. Okay. Which you can already tell feels significantly bigger than this hardcore minnow flat in the 70. Like way bigger. What the hell? All right, let me line these up properly. But yeah, maybe they're measuring them from tip to tail and not including the bill. But yeah, the I want to say that these things weigh probably close to the same. Um, the 78 from Lucky Craft has a much quieter sound than the 100 does. The Pointer 100 is a very loud bait and one that you work pretty damn aggressive. So what's cool about the 78 is that it's almost a a bait that you would use totally differently than the 100. Um, so here's the 100. And this thing, you can work harder than most other jerk baits without it blowing out and being too much. But of course, you're going to work it in the conditions that warrant that, where the water is warmer and the fish are feeding more aggressively, or where the water is warming up and it's pre-spawn. But the Pointer 78 is a quiet bait. There's just some really subtle rattles in it. So this dual hardcore minnow flat in the 70 feels tiny compared to it. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I thought that it also has the same magnetic weight transfer system. And it says on the package that it does. If you can see here, magnet lock. But I haven't used this before, and as you can see, when I'm trying to demonstrate, I have to use an extreme amount of force to be able to actually show you guys what it does. But I'm pretty sure, just like most baits that Dual Hardcore does make, they make crankbaits, they make top waters, and jerk baits that all do this with that magnetic weight transfer system. In fact, they have it patented with whatever technology is in it to be able to do that. That's different, right? I know some baits have that as well. Like the Jackal Re-Range that I showed you does have that same deal, and I've been throwing it the last couple of days, and it's almost scary every time you cast. You can feel that thing fly to the back right as you're loading up, as you launch the bait. Bing! It kind of hits the back of the bait. Um, Almost sounds like, a braid to leader not going through your guides and like breaking off. It's pretty intimidating sound. Yeah, Matt, I've kind of got the same thing here. Um, Water clarity can really vary here in Colorado from some bodies of water that are super clear, not gin clear, but very clear, to some that are just totally muddy. And of course, weather and storms and things like that play a big role. Um, but it's interesting to hear that Justin's got really a pretty narrow uh, variety in terms of water clarity and is always fishing in dirty water. It's fascinating. Yeah, and I think you're right, Matt. I think that I will need to actually tie this on and fling it to be able to engage that magnetic weight transfer system. But if you hear this thing, it's got a really quiet rattle, but compared to that pointer 78, it's just a little bit louder. Very high pitch though, but 3/16 of an ounce. I'm interested to see what it can do, to be honest with you. At that same weight, I've got a few other jerk baits that I throw that are going to compare. Um, and first, let's show you the Lucky Craft Pointer 65. As you notice, I've got all these baits in the Ghost Minnow color, simply because it's my favorite color. And with the water clarity that you have to have to be able to throw a jerk bait most of the time in the first place, um, I do like a rather clear profile with just a little bit of shine to it, something that's going to imitate a minnow quite well. So I think the 65 is silent. No, it's not. So if I put these guys up side to side, now we're talking. And that looks a lot more similar in size. 65, 70 versus 70 and 78. That 78 has a much bigger profile to it. Wider body, wider everything. And so that 65 from Lucky Craft is much more like this 70 from Dual Hardcore. And in that same class would be, this X Wrap from Rapala. I want to say this is like the size 6 for 60. Let's kind of compare it alongside the Pointer 65. Yeah, they're the same size. So I don't know what the exact specs of this Rapala X Wrap are, but it's got that same weight transfer system as all the X Wraps, and it's going to be loud, right? The Yozuri I throw the floating version more than anything, just because I will fish these a lot in still water as opposed to current. But all of these baits are coming out of my trout fishing box. So these are all jerk baits and crank baits. So I've got lipless cranks here. shallow diving square bills, poppers, and like wake bait style top waters. Otherwise, it's jerk baits, jerk baits, jerk baits, jerk baits, jerk baits. So I've got everything from, Yozuri floating minnows and Rapala X wraps to Rapala floating minnows to Rebel countdown minnows and the Rapala husky jerk as well. And then I've told you guys about this bait a bunch, but I will mention it again. This is arguably my favorite ultralight or trout specific jerk bait. And this is the HD Trout by Dynamic Lures. I mean, you can even see I've got, this thing has been tied on like 3 or 4 times without me even cutting the knots off. It's kind of insane. I don't know why I wouldn't cut the previous knots off, but I've literally got 3 of them on here right now. So this brown trout color pattern is one that I've got the utmost confidence in and typically have a couple in my box at any given time. Now, this is a very small bait and it is a fast sinking jerk bait. So quite a bit different than what you'd find in a Lucky Craft Pointer 65 or the dual hardcore flat minnow in the 70. This guy here, I believe, is a like a 50 size. It's 2 inches, maybe just over 2 inches, and it weighs 1/10 of an ounce. So it's a very lightweight bait, but high pitch rattles in it. And like I said, it's a fast sink bait. So it will sink some 1 second, 1 foot per second. And it is made for fishing in current and fast moving water, though you can fish it on a straight retrieve with occasional jerks to it in still water. And it is made by Dynamic Lures here in Colorado. Fantastic jerk bait that is really my go-to when it comes to fishing for trout. If I'm going to use a lure, this is what I'd go to first, quite honest. So I did pick up 2 of the 70 size hardcore minnow flats from Dual Hardcore. And yeah, it says it dives 3 to 4 feet. So a little bit deeper than I would have thought, but still a great range for all purposes. And it's a suspending jerkbait too. So I'm happy about that. Those guys retail for $10 and were on sale for $7.99 a pop. So picked up those 2. And last in this unboxing, Matthew says, my favorite finesse jerkbaits are the Megabass Humpbacks and the Dual Rosante 63. I've heard great things about the Rosantes. But funny that you mentioned the Humpbacks. Because I got 2 of them right here. Wow, this packaging is fascinating because these are Megabass baits, but you would not be able to tell from just looking at the packaging. But these are the Megabass Great Hunting Humpback, specifically in the GH51 size. I think they make this in a 46 and a 51. So correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but these are really small baits. Specifically, Megabass's trout line of baits in the great hunting. So, what's really fascinating about these is that they are heavy for their size. So, uh, this guy's 51 millimeters long, but weighs 5.1 grams. So, this thing is still almost 3/16 of an ounce. You can see it's got that body shape of like a sockeye salmon. Um, but if I put the dual hardcore Minnow Flat 70 right up next to it, you see that it dwarfs the Humpback. And yet these guys weigh just about the same. And one thing that I love about the dual hardcore Minnow Flats and most of dual hardcore baits is that they weigh a lot relative to their size for the most part. So that plus that magnetic weight transfer system gives it incredible casting distance and great action. But um, this great hunting Humpback, look at this thing. It's very narrow, very tall. Um, of course, it's got a fantastic paint job on it, but very interesting profile. Damn it, I hear something upstairs. I hope that's my dog, not one of my kids. But um, let's see here. This color pattern is called Pinkback Yamame. How gorgeous is that? Both of these were on sale on Discount Tackle for $11.61. They might not still be in stock right now, but they could be. Guys, I got to go check on what's going on upstairs. Um, sounds like someone's walking around upstairs. Be right back. Sorry about that. My 5-year-old was peeing. No, Wills is not learning to walk already. Thank God. Not even crawling. The dude's 5 months. But yeah, Brooklyn, on the other hand, she's not a sleepwalker, but she is a very light sleeper. Wakes up to pee multiple times every night. So that's just kind of part of the deal. Um, so she wasn't calling for me or anything, but I was creeped out just hearing footsteps upstairs since I'm the only one here and the doors are locked upstairs. So it had to have been my dog or my 5-year-old. My 3-year-old is still in a crib. She's moving into Brooklyn's room, and they will share a room when Wills moves into the nursery and starts sleeping in the crib in the next couple of months. So she's still in a crib, and we've raised her well enough to not climb out of the crib. And even though she is almost completely potty trained, she still does wear a diaper in the middle of the night, just in case. And yeah, she doesn't get up to go pee in the middle of the night. So anyway, I'm not totally sure about the diving depth or the sink rate of this great hunting humpback. Okay. And excuse me for not knowing that. But again, this is the 51 size, not the 46. Um, did get this in 2 colors, both of which were on sale and in stock. These were the only 2 colors on sale. So, very random thing to find a JDM bait that does have minimum advertised pricing on sale. It just doesn't happen. Okay. So, whenever I see that kind of thing, I decide to take advantage of it. So, like I said, I was surprised that the Jackal uh, buzz baits were $8. I'm pretty sure they retail at $10, but I could be wrong about that too. I don't know. George Foles, what's up, dude? How you doing tonight? Indeed. All right, so I'm switching from that heavier beer. This was the Can O Bliss IPA series from Oscar Blues. This very well might be their in rotation, like their seasonal IPA right now. It says it's a hazy IPA, 7%. And going down to the Oney or the 1Y IPA, also a hazy IPA, but this guy is specifically marketed as a 100 calorie IPA at 4%. So give it a little taste test. And it kind of tastes like a 100-calorie beer, especially in comparison. I wish I would have started with it first and then moved to the Can of Bliss, because this is not nearly as blissful. Um, Part of me wants to say it tastes like a 100-calorie beer and just tastes like there's something missing. Obviously, half the calories that would be in a typical IPA, but it's missing some flavor, dude. For such a colorful can, I don't know. Maybe it'll grow on me as I get into the beer a little bit more. So, check out this little brown trout pattern. I mean, freaking sick, right? A little bit of orange on the belly. Otherwise, that is a brown trout and a half. Again, very, very narrow profile. Let me compare it in size. Oh, shoot, these hooks are sharp. I'm going to compare it in size to the HD trout that I talked about. So the humpback is smaller, not quite by 5 millimeters. So maybe the HD trout is closer to 55 and that humpback is 51. Um, but the humpback weighs over 5 grams. which is twice the weight of this guy. The HG trout, like I said, is one of my confidence lures when it comes to fishing for trout. So um, I would imagine with such a heavy lure, the humpback is not a suspending jerkbait. But can you tell me, Matt, is the humpback suspending? Is it fast sink? Is it slow sink? It definitely has that humpback profile, which I find interesting and pretty cool. It does have very light wire hooks on there, um, at very high quality, but very small and very light wire. Now, I oftentimes will change out the stock hooks on these HD trouts. They come great straight out of the package. Um, they're like a custom hook that is probably a size 10, and I will switch them out for gamakatsus um, when I need to. So I usually will fish them for a while until I either get the bait hung up or I start to bend out one of the points of the hook um, on a big fish. So I have caught, I really only target trout on these baits, but I've caught big browns, big rainbows, and lake trout as well. Now, of course, I've caught brook trout as well, but they're not going to do anything to the hook. So when we're talking about bigger fish that might compromise the integrity of the hooks, um, yeah, brown, rainbow, and lake trout. What you can't see about this brown trout pattern is that it has some translucency to it, and I can see the internals of this bait. Has a very, very faint knock to it. And that color officially is called Takumi Iwana. Uh, whatever that translates to. Brown trout. Um, so anyway, about $80 is what I spent for this order. And a little bit off the wall this month, right? But kind of cool. I'm excited about it. I got that Sexy Dog Junior in the clear color. I got those two Jackal Firecracker buzz baits. I got the two dual hardcore flat minnows in the 70. I got two of the Megabass Great Hunting Humpback 51s and one of the Megabass Pop X poppers in one of my favorite colors, the matte shad, all for $80. Um, and that'll show you what discount tackle can do for you. So, to be honest with you, I wish it showed what the savings were on this order, but if I had to guess, it's probably 2, 6, 8, 12, 14, $16. So I got close to $100 worth of baits for that $81 and change. So pretty excited, man. Matt says it's a fast sink bait, but it doesn't snag as much as you would think, especially near rocky bottoms. But near current, man, those things shine. You can literally go right through a hot, literally go right through like a hot knife going through butter. Yeah, and honestly, that's probably where I will fish them the most is in current, in streams and rivers here, specifically in Colorado, when fishing for trout. So I'm much more likely to throw the hardcore minnow flat and the pointer 65, other suspending jerkbaits in still water, in lakes or ponds where I know that there are trout, and I know that where they're located. Otherwise, I will go to streams and rivers and fish the HD trout and uh, fish this new Megabass Great Hunting bait, as well as the Rebel Countdown minnow, and maybe one or two others that I will fish more frequently. But suspending jerk baits definitely are, in my mind, in a different class and a different application than sinking jerk baits. Simply because I will fish a sinking jerk bait on a straight retrieve most of the time, and I will fish a suspending jerk bait on a straight retrieve rarely. Um, though I will sometimes do it, I am usually looking to jerk the bait on more of a traditional twitch pause type of retrieve, and just imitating a smaller bait fish. Whereas with something that's going to sink, I'm trying to move it quickly upstream. And this is part of the conversation that we had last week. Abe was asking, I think, since he's going to have a kayak and an anchor, was asking which direction he should be casting in current situations. And I suggested casting uh, upstream and bringing it downstream because the fish will be positioned facing upstream. Um, Now, that's not always true in terms of how you should present the lure. If you're going to fish it more aggressively, you can certainly bring it upstream and fish it on kind of a stop and go or a rip style retrieve because you'll have the resistance of the current. But otherwise, when letting something kind of swim naturally or drift downstream, that's where I will I will let it come downstream. But when fishing something like a jerk bait, I'm usually going to fish it in uh, pools of water where there is a little less strong of current. Um, and I'm going to fish something just a little bit more natural, more of a fly imitation, a bug imitator in the fast moving water, if that makes sense. Matt says, yeah, what I do is work the humpbacks like I'm working a speed worm. And I find that works best with the jerks in between reeling and then pause for like 1 or 2 seconds after reeling halfway. Yep, for sure. I've been playing a lot with retrieves this last week or two, and not just since using this Pop X and finding that the fish tend to like it a little bit different each day, right? Um, the way that I've had the most success with it has been um, on a medium slow retrieve. So kind of like a bloop bloop, pause, two, three, bloop, pause, two, three, bloop bloop bloop, pause, bloop, pause, two, bloop bloop. Kind of a maybe that's more of a medium speed retrieve. I'm not waiting more than maybe 3 seconds in between, but I will often just twitch the thing once. Um, in between twos or threes. And I find that I almost always have been getting bit on the twos or the threes, not the single ones. Um, Same deal goes on a jerk bait. Same thing even goes on moving baits like a chatterbait. I fish the jackhammer chatterbait more than any lure that I fish. Period. Um, and I'm not ashamed to say it because even though people have started picking it up and throwing it more frequently, and the fish get conditioned to it, and I'm throwing it in the same bodies of water over and over, I find that by changing colors and by changing retrieves, I continue to get bites and quality ones. I seem to catch a couple 2.5 to 3 pound fish every single week at a couple different bodies of water. on the jackhammer chatterbait. And I'm mixing up the trailer, I'm mixing up the color, and I'm mixing up how I fish the bait. So um, I usually fish it on a straight retrieve. I am rarely just letting it sit on bottom and work it like a jig where I'm dragging it and killing it or ripping it up off the bottom like I would a trap. Um, I have more success like that in craw colors and in the springtime. But this time of year, I'm fishing a chatterbait on like a straight retrieve, and I will mix up. Usually, my most successful retrieve is like a medium speed retrieve. So on a fast speed gear ratio, I'm going real, 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 real. I can feel it thumping through the tip of my rod pretty hard, but I know the bait's not running by them. It's kind of just cruising by 'em. And then every 6 or 8 turns of the reel handle, I will speed it up for 1 or 2 turns of the reel handle. And it's just enough to make that bait kick out or rise up, just like it's trying to get away. So it's swimming by, and then it will just kind of take off for a second before continuing its swim. And it's just shortly after that that I usually get bit. Um, but I find that depending on the day, sometimes they want it on just a little bit faster of a retrieve where it's loud in the water. And you can almost tell that when that's the case, that it's making so much racket underwater that the fish that eat it are really just trying to shut it up. They come up and are just trying to stop the bait. Um, and maybe it's a feed response, but it seems more um like they're just quickly ambushing that bait, or they're annoyed by it. Whereas that more standard retrieve that's straight with a quick speed up is like a fish is following it, tracking the bait, and then when they see it trying to get away or do something funny, then they attack it from behind. So I will find that when that is the case, I get them to eat it um, from behind, and they're almost always hooked through the roof. When I'm burning it through the shallows, um, or I'm just really messing with the retrieve, that's when I will hook them through the side of the mouth. Um, when they're really coming at it and T-boning it and eating it differently. Okay. But a chatterbait is really what I have more confidence in than anything. And I almost always have one tied on. Um, but I've made a point to really switch up the color and the way that I'm fishing it day to day this year than ever. You know, there have been years in the past where I've left like the Beehive Delight um, color with that green pumpkin chartreuse Yamamoto Seiko as the trailer on, and I've left it tied on for a month or two. I'm really cutting off and tying on a new color every few days or every week or so, um, for the sake of either matching the water clarity or showing the fish something different if I'm fishing the same body of water a couple times in the same week or two. So, um, anyway, sorry to go on a little bit of a rant there. Justin says, "Do you like the stealth blades?" Um, I would say I like them. Don't love them. Got one right here. You know, straight out of the pack, I would say that these skirts come a bit long. Um, if I'm going to use a trailer like this, I am definitely going to cut the skirt. But because this one's new out of the pack and I haven't actually fished this specific bait, um, I haven't trimmed the skirt just yet. But I threaded on this as a trailer to see how it would look after we were talking about it on a live stream a couple weeks ago. I was telling you about these Savage Gear Ned baits. and specifically how I do not like this Ned Minnow, which is a segmented swim bait made from Duratech. But as you can see, it's got very little tail action. And you have to fish this thing really fast and high in the water column to get much action out of it at all. And so I think it was Matt who made the suggestion that it could make a good chatterbait trailer. And my thought was, actually, yeah, maybe. So this color matched up perfect with this clear water minnow colored stealth blade. And I thought, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. But I still haven't made a point to go out and fish with it. But if I do, I will cut this skirt down quite a bit. I think I've got one or two in what used to be my my kind of go-to box. So yeah, here I've got one in the Beehive Delight. I did not trim this skirt because I rigged up the full-size Zaco on there. And this is that color matchup that I was talking about. This is the Beehive Delight, where you get that chartreuse, clear, and green pumpkin skirt. Green pumpkin head with a little chartreuse on the bottom. And then that Zaco is just a perfect match. So you get a shorter shank hook on the stealth blade. I think it's a decoy hook instead of a gamakatsu hook, which to me does not bother me. It's still a great hook. Um, Great bend on there, super sharp, sticky hook. It might be a little bit short for the Zaco itself, but that's not the issue. Um, to me, what is the issue is the subtlety of the action. So, in my head, when I first got this thing, I was thinking, okay, this is going to be a subtle chatterbait, right? I'm gonna throw this with something like this. This is the Jackal eye shad, more of almost a drop shot style, straight tail worm, and this thing is just going to literally be stealthy in the water. Here I've got a straight green pumpkin one rigged up with the Reaction Innovations shiver shot. Again, like a drop shot style bait with like a fluke tail. And I thought that was going to be an awesome pairing. And this was actually too erratic. I did not like it. One thing that I noticed about the Stealth Blade is that it's a little bit speed sensitive. The jackhammer can be burned without any issue, whereas the Stealth Blade will start to I don't know if blowout is the right word, but it will stop acting right when it's worked too fast. Um, and so you really have to work it on more of a medium speed retrieve. But I don't quite like the bait. I have not developed real confidence in the Stealth Blade. And I don't know how much of a difference the blade being clear and plastic makes. In my opinion, the jackhammer is what it is because that metal blade is making contact with the lead head. And it makes such a loud sound. I don't think that they're seeing the blade nearly as much. Now, of course, the jackhammer is made um, in a wide variety of color pattern. I've got my jackhammer box elsewhere. So there are some that are made with silver blades and some that are made with gold blades, whether they're shad or bluegill patterns. But you know, the Beehive Delight has a green pumpkin blade on it. The black and blue has a black blade on it. I think those are just fine and stealthy in terms of not putting off a lot of flash. I think the vibration is what really matters. Um, and so to me, you're getting rid of that. And it's no longer a real jackhammer. So to call it the jackhammer stealth blade chatterbait is a little bit ridiculous, in my opinion. It is not a jackhammer anymore. It's just kind of a vibrating jig or chatterbait that's designed differently with a clear plastic blade. It is stealthy, but it's not a jackhammer. That's for damn sure. So I would say I like the concept. Um, I like the bait okay, but I have not developed confidence in it. So I would give it like a 5 or 6 out of 10. Quality components, overpriced for what it is. I would get a jackhammer every day of the week instead of the stealth blade. But I would put it still ahead of most regular chatterbaits. I have gotten to the point where I throw the jackhammer 90% of the time. And like I mentioned last week, I've started playing around with the Picasso shock blade, and so far I'm pretty impressed with it. I would say that it automatically jumps the list ahead of like half of Z-Man's chatterbaits, especially in the shock blade pro with the titanium weed guard. This thing has a 4-strand titanium weed guard that takes a lot of force to adjust, but once you get it just right, I mean, literally, I can come in from any angle and I'm not going to snag this thing up. And then the cool thing is, I don't have to apply a ton of force to be able to set the hook. So I think the Shockblade Pro is a great bait, and is gonna. I wouldn't say it rivals the jackhammer per se, but I think it's a very good chatterbait. Bladed jig. Sorry, Justin. You trying to give away your stealth blade? Yeah, green pumpkin 3/8. I throw 3/8 most of the time. Um, I'll throw a half ounce if I'm trying to keep bottom contact or jig it off the bottom. If I'm fishing in deeper water and I want to fish it like a swing head, then that's when I'll go to the heavier weights like the 3/4 and the 1 1/4. But I rarely throw those, typically because I still don't have enough confidence in the areas that I'm fishing, and find that I'm usually throwing a swing head or that type of presentation, even a football jig when I'm trying to feel bottom. And there's a pretty decent risk of me getting snagged. So that's why I like throwing a swing head with an EWG hook on it. So my chances of snagging are lower. It's really only when getting wedged in between two rocks, as opposed to the hook snagging on a brush pile, snagging on a rock that's already exposed. So, and yeah, Justin, you're right. It is so subtle. Um, if you're fishing it too slow and too fast, then you lose contact with the blade and really can't feel it. But what I've found is that you really do have to downsize your gear. You can't throw the stealth blade on the same gear that you would throw the standard jackhammer on, even though it's a 3/8 ounce bait and it's a chatterbait, because it's got a smaller, slightly lighter wire hook on it, and it has that plastic blade. You almost have to throw it on more of a crankbait rod than a chatterbait rod. So, uh, quite honestly, more of like a medium power, moderate fast action rod would be more appropriate than a medium heavy. Um, And yeah, if you're fishing muddy water, dude, there's almost no point. You want something loud. So if I were you, I'd try to trade someone for a Shockblade Pro. Um, but I don't know that many people are going to do that. You're spinning gear phobic. Why? I mean, you got to have, yeah, there's a time and place for spinning gear, man. Why are you phobic of spinning gear? Let's talk about that for a second. We need a therapy session for Justin. There's a lot of techniques that warrant a spinning setup, and you just got to get used to it. Like I said, I usually carry 3 to 4 setups with me when I'm bank fishing, and one of them will be a spinning rod, and the rest will be bait casters. So I definitely prefer bait casters, but when in certain situations where I need just a little bit more accuracy, a little bit more casting distance, or I'm throwing really lightweight lures, then voila, a spinning setup comes into play big time. So you got to recognize when and where everything excels. Now, I would not say throw the stealth blade on a spinning setup. I would just say throw it on a crankbait setup. So something in the ballpark of a 7 foot medium power rod, something with more of a little bit more bend, a little bit slower of an action to it. You don't want to throw it on a medium heavy fast action rod that's going to have more backbone and a quicker tip, just because then you're really not going to feel the blade. If you've got something that's softer, you're going to feel that blade a bit more in the water. So you don't throw spinning gear because you can do everything on your casting gear. Is that what you're saying? I can appreciate the confidence. And Matt says, yeah, I like throwing jerk baits on spinning um, and finesse setups or finesse top water. Yeah, I do too, but I've also run into the same issue that I mentioned earlier in this stream. Is that with jerk baits and top water baits, if I'm working the slack and just reeling it up on a spinning reel, and then I go to make a long bomb cast, I often find that slack line wrapped around the spool will kind of bunch up on itself and create knots in the line unnecessarily. So I struggle to be able to tightly reel that slack in when I'm working top waters and jerk baits on my spinning gear. At least I've been having that issue more recently. It's not as much of an issue if I'm jerking or popping on tight line. If I'm just blooping the popper, um, it like while I'm walking the bait. So if I'm walking the top water and then just stop for a second and bloop it a couple times and then keep it moving, not a problem. If I'm fishing a jerk bait quite a bit more aggressively, um, I don't have that issue as much. But if I'm popping it and then reeling up the slack, popping it and then reeling up the slack, I find that it's almost too loose. So anyway, guys, I've been on here for an hour and 45 minutes. That's a long time, and I've got to piss pretty bad. It's almost 11 o'clock my time. I've got half this beer left. I'm gonna finish it quickly and get out of here. Um, I'll try and be back on here tomorrow night. Maybe we can chat about anything and everything you guys want to talk about. I'm sorry that tonight's live got a little bit hijacked by my unboxing, but I think it was still a good conversation nonetheless. 7-foot medium heavy victory with Corrado DC for weightless soft plastics and Neds all the way to 2.5 cranks and 70 ploppers. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Medium heavy sounds a little bit heavy, but if you're talking about a spinning rod, um, then I suppose that's reasonable. For Ned rigs, and some weightless soft plastics, especially if it's like wacky rigged, I prefer a medium light. But if it's Texas rigged, and if I'm throwing, um, a plopper on a casting rod, I prefer a medium than medium heavy. It's the DC, baby. All right, guys. Yeah, I am going to dip out of here. But Justin, Matt, Ron, whoever else is in here right now, I appreciate you guys hanging out and chit chatting. Ron says, "Are you a former bear?" I don't know, man. Am I? Rah! I don't think so. Could be though. So, guys, watch me chug and then watch me nay nay. No, dude, I almost went to Baylor. I ended up going to San Antonio. Um, and went to a small school called Trinity University. So I was a tiger, man, not a bear. But I did like Baylor quite a bit. We can talk more about Baylor at another time. A little too conservative for my liking. Um, so, guys, have a great rest of your night. Happy Friday. Talk to you soon. Peace.